Family members. Let's see what made me decide to get my license. I would say is my stepbrother, Danny DiRoberto. Has his own team, the DiRoberto team, which is who I'm affiliated with out of Remax Advantage One. I'd say watching the way he's been doing things for some time now has really inspired me to know that there's more out there for me to grasp, and not just cutting hair forever. And just being involved with real estate. I have an aunt has her license as well. She was licensed through Champion Real Estate Academy, which actually put me on to the Champion Real Estate Academy. And I had a grandfather that was involved with real estate when I was a kid. He was a developer, so I've always been around it. I've always had a niche for it. I was in the carpenters union for a little bit, so I understand carpentry. I understand building, and yeah, it kind of all just tailored and stacked and piled up into me wanting to strive to get the license. So I would say my experience taking the class with Champion Real Estate Academy was great. It was there was nothing fire hose about it. Put it that way. It was all broken down into terms where somebody like myself at the time really didn't. As much as I thought I knew about real estate, I didn't know anything about real estate. I might have known what a buyer and a seller was, but I had no idea what actually transpired between the two. And it was broken down perfectly, for me, to understand and to go on and feel confident enough to go and take the test and pass. Yeah, and become the realtor that I'm striving to be. So I've got my license in 2017, and it's been a great experience. I was licensed and immediately joined the DiRoberto team. Started kind of my own path in the industry, where I was a full-time barber, large network. However, nobody knew me as a realtor, so I had to kind of start from the bottom. And by doing so, the DiRoberto team was great because we had rentals, which not a lot of people like to do rentals. However, it's a key component to somebody needing housing. And it's an easy way for you to get into the market and into real estate and start understanding transactions and start understanding how things evolve and start converting, tenants and renters into buyers. But yeah, I'd say that's kind of where it started. So I'd say I thought getting into real estate was going to be immediately, hopefully I can make a lot of money. I think that's what most people think when they look at real estate, because the wages that you can acquire are much larger than, say, your average income. However, it's starting to align with what I thought. But in the very beginning, I realized it's actually a lot of work. There's a lot of networking that's involved. There's a lot of phone calls. There's a lot of, as I like to call it, dead time, where you're showing homes or you're showing apartments or you're driving around. You're wasting gas. You're putting miles on your car. You're doing a lot of these things. You gotta you're going shopping and buying clothes so that you can look the part as well and look like an agent, right? However, sometimes that all doesn't align, where now, it's been 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, sometimes a year, and you've been working with one person and you haven't been able to find them the property that they really want. So a lot of times it can not go as planned, and it takes some time. And right now I'm starting to notice the snowball effect. It's been 7 years for me now since I've been actually licensed, and I'd say probably about 5 years since I've really been involved in the business, working, and grinding. But it's starting to snowball. I can feel the momentum now. I would say the biggest challenge for myself as a realtor would be, at this point, I'd say probably gathering sufficient leads, people that are really qualified to buy and are actually really ready to buy. A lot of times you have people that are looking, they're just looking, right? They don't really know what they want, but if they did find that property, then they will put an offer in, but sometimes it's just not there. So I think that can be a difficult thing, because when you're new in the industry and you're just starting to snowball and you want that momentum, you're willing to work with anybody. So when somebody says, yeah, hey, I'm interested in looking at this home, you're going to drop everything. You're going to go show them that home because it's at the end of the day, you want the best for that person, and you want to see that person close a house because it's putting money in your pocket as well. Um, but it's I would say generating, efficient leads. So I think to a new agent, what I think I could, offer as experience, getting into this industry, I would say, find a brokerage that you can connect with. Find a brokerage where you're not afraid to ask questions. Where you're not afraid to, feel stupid for asking stupid questions, right? We all have stupid questions once in a while, and sometimes and no question is stupid if you ask me, right? If you don't know it and you're searching for the answer, you got to ask the question, right? So I would say find somebody that you're comfortable with. Find somebody that offers you those kind of leads. And the reason why I like the team that I'm with is because when I started out, I was able to start with those rentals. To me, it meant a lot because some of those rentals I've turned into buyers. And that's where I feel like you can generate a lot of your leads from, and you can start really building off of that. And it's kind of what I've been doing, and I close a handful of listings, a handful of sales every year, and do my rentals. Perfectly happy with it, but I'm noticing each and every year I'm snowballing. Each and every year I'm getting bigger and bigger, and to me, that's what counts. And I'm still able to balance my barbershop. I'm still able to balance my family. I'm still able to balance coaching. I coach sports. I coach all my kids' sports. Very important to me. So I'm able to do all of those things and still, be involved, and a major thing for me as of late has been getting involved with the Realtor Association, getting into classes, learning as much as you possibly can. And that's what I've been doing as of late. Getting involved in some classes that don't even have to do with actual, getting advice from realtors, but getting advice from mortgage lenders, getting advice from seeing things from a different perspective, what's going on the other side of the transaction, which is important because we need to know as realtors where interest rates are at that point. We need to know as realtors who we can trust as far as lenders, who we can trust as far as people that are going to make sure that we get our buyers to the finish line. And that's huge. And you can get all that stuff at the Realtor Association. I mean, they're free. You might as well. So right now I've been trying to tackle that once a month, get a class in, learn as much as I can, and put it to use. You spend more time with your work family most of the time, right? You spend more time with your work family than you do with your own family in a sense, right? So you want to make sure that you're around people that you can tolerate, people that you have a good vibe with, people that you can you have a good understanding with. And, our relationships, they have many levels. We stem from childhood, friends and family and stemming into watching each and every single one of us grow into the individuals that we are. Some are getting into, flips, and some are getting into buying real estate, and some are getting into just, being a more, experienced realtor. But just being able to call each and every one. If one doesn't answer, I can call the next. If another one doesn't answer, I can call the next and get the questions and the answers that I need. And I think that's a key component to who you work with, and who you surround yourself with in this industry. Yeah, family and community are very important to me. Very. My grandfather, who was a developer, he actually used to say this to me all the time when I was a kid, that that you want to be a pillar of the community. And to me, it was always, for some reason, it always resonated with me, even back then, because I still remember it to this day. He's been long, he's predeceased, but yeah, it was something that always stood by me, and it's something that I cherish. I do a lot. I try to do as much community work as I possibly can. I'm involved with the whole program out of Worcester as well. So I do a lot of charitable, I cut hair for that charity. It's a nonprofit organization. It's based out of pretty much one of the church that I go to. Yeah, and I do a lot of that type of stuff as well. I like getting involved, and it helps in a lot of ways. It helps you makes you feel good about yourself for one, but then it also helps you networking. It helps you getting out there and talking to different people and understanding different people's paths and what they want out of their lives. I have three kids. Yep, I have three kids, 14, 9. I have Angelise, she's 14. Mac, he's 9, and Ace is 5. They all play sports.
What do they play?
So Angelise does softball. She does cheerleading. And I never coached any of her stuff per se. It was kind of one of those things where she was involved in the younger sports. I was actually more involved with working and stuff like that. So I had the time to go to the games. I just didn't really have the time to put into do the practices and all that stuff at that point. But then once I started getting a little bit more comfortable, I was able to, coach, my son's teams, and I've been coaching now for 5 years. Yeah, since he was my oldest son was in T-ball. I've been coaching that, baseball, then I moved to football. Now I do football and baseball. Yeah. It's going great. I love it. Yeah. So baseball, we generally have about 12 to 13 kids on a team. And I've had pretty much the same group of kids now. Like we're going into our 9U type, scenario, minor league or whatnot. And I've had some of these kids now for the last 5 years. So I've been able to develop a good relationship with the kids, with their parents. Yeah, and I love it. I love it. I wouldn't actually change that for anything. I make sure I put the time aside to do that because it's important to me. It's important. I've had some great experiences. Yeah. I mean, just listing a home and the first conversation you have with a seller that thinks that they're only going to get X amount for the home, and then you can kind of express to them, no, I think you're going to do better, and you end up getting them much better than you actually anticipated. I think that's a great feeling, for somebody who's put their blood, sweat, and tears into a property, and maybe has raised their family there, or it's been something that's been in their family for a while, and they want to move on to the next chapter of their life, and here it is. You're able to provide them with much more gratification than they probably thought they were going to get. Yeah, and I think that's a great experience. Yeah. So I would say what made me go into the path of cutting hair and being a barber was, through high school, I actually would cut a lot of my friends' hair, and it was just something that I had a niche for. And there was a time in my life when I was about 18 years old, right out of high school, really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Definitely didn't want to go to college. I wasn't really a school person. And however, actually, my wife to this day, Andrea, we were together back then, and she kind of mentioned it to, why don't you go to barber school? And I said, you know what, maybe I will. And I ended up going to barber school, and it ended up being what it is today. 21 years later, I own a barbershop, 7 years now. And, we started a family almost right away. So I went right into what I know, cutting hair. And cutting hair just wasn't paying the bills. Let's face it. It's like real estate. You start off again, you got to build a clientele, you got to get the momentum, you got to snowball, you got to, it just wasn't happening. So at the time, I had friends that were like, hey, we're in the carpenters union. Like, you should join. My stepfather, Danny's father, was a carpenter. He lived with me. I did carpentry. I saw it my whole entire life, from my grandfather being a developer to my stepfather having a carpentry company. So it was something that resonated with me. And I'm like, all right, I'll go and try it out. I'm willing to do whatever I got to do, especially to support my family. So I joined the Carpenters Union. And then when I joined the Carpenters Union, I literally didn't really have, I was more of a laborer than a carpenter at that point. You know what I mean? But I faked it till I made it. And that's just what I did. And got in with the union, went out and had, job interviews pretty much. Like when you get in with the union, they don't give you a job. Like you get in, you're on the bench, you're in the union hall, and they say, here's a list of the jobs that are going on in this area. You go and talk to those union carpenter stewards on the site and tell them that you're looking for work. So that's what I did. I went and I would literally go to every single every construction site that was going on in this area. And I would ask, who's the carpenter steward? And they'd come out and say, listen, I'm a first-year apprentice. I'm looking for a job. And then finally I had one guy say, you know what? I like you. You've been coming here like 4 times looking for a job. I'm going to hire you. He hired me as a concrete kid, right? So I started doing concrete for this company for Worcester. It was actually the Worcester State Project. We were doing a dorm facility at the Worcester State Project. And I started with him, and I'll tell you, I knew nothing about concrete. Like I knew some framing, I knew some stuff like that, nothing when it came to concrete. And I was terrible. But I understand how to learn. I love learning. So to me, I just picked it up quick. But at the beginning, I was very, very, bad at it. But I was good enough that when the job was over for the concrete part of it, foundation work, sideways, walkways, all that stuff, the GC at the time, the general contractor who was Consigli Construction, the super on the job called me and said, hey, we're looking for an apprentice. We like you. So they called me up, boom, and they hired me for the general contractor. So now I became I was a carpenter for the general contractor. So now I saw from concrete to finish work at this one particular location. I was there for 2.5 years with this same company, and I just grew with them. I was in school doing just learning as I went, right? And before you know it, I became to my point of getting my journeyman. And then that's when Danny called me one day. Kid you not, I was cutting hair out of my basement. I was in my basement cutting hair, just still keeping my clientele because I was building, snowballing as I was doing the union stuff. And then Danny's like, bro, I got a property on Hamilton Street. Be perfect for a barbershop for you. And I said, what? He said, yeah. He's like, dude, even if you don't work there, he's like, just own it. Buy it, rent it, fill it with chairs, do whatever you got to do. It'd be a great barbershop. And he convinced me. And I went there that day after work. I looked at it and I'm like, damn, this was my dream forever, right? Was to own a barbershop, own my own shop. Every barber's dream is to get out of being a renter or just a barber and being a barbershop owner, right? So I went home that night, talked to my wife, and I said, man, Danny just showed me this property over there. I was like, it's awesome. And I was kind of sick and tired of driving. At this point, I was driving like an hour to get to work every day with the union, and I'd be here and I'd be there. Oh, we need you in Springfield. We need you in Boston. We need you here. But you're all over the place in the union, So I'm like, I was kind of sick and tired of doing the hustle and bustle at that point. And I said, man, I might just jump in. And I did. I gave my notice with the union. I started renting the property. Now, at this point, I'm a carpenter, so I remodeled the whole thing. I gutted the whole place out, remodeled the whole shop myself, got it together. One of my good friends he was in barber school at the time, just so happened to be in barber school. And I said, listen, I'm about to open up a shop. Cool, I'll work for you. Came in. I don't say he works for me, he works with me because he's the sole reason why the shop is where it is today. But yeah, and then we opened up. I joined forces with another individual who I was actually working for as a barber when I was a kid. He was on his way out, he was kind of getting a little bit older. He's at a new shop. And called him to say, hey, listen, I could use, help. I need your license, right? I needed a master's license. I didn't have that at the time. So I said, would you join forces with me and open up a shop? It's right in our neighborhood, Grafton Hill, right, where we're both from. He said, absolutely. So we joined forces. We opened up the shop together, called the Grafton Hill Barbershop. That's where we're both from. We're just longtime residents. I've never lived anywhere else, my whole family. So we opened up the shop. Fast forward 7.5 years now. It's great. It's awesome. But yeah, again, Danny, I'm serious. He definitely pushed me to do something on my own, which brought my mind from being, an employee to wanting to be, my own boss, which is great. It was awesome because it fell into my lap. And I'm an opportunity guy. If an opportunity strikes, if I see it fit, I got to go with my gut. I got to. I don't care what it is. I'm not afraid to jump. And that's what I did. And then as I was cutting hair, that's when I used to, I seen Danny. At the time, I'm the older stepbrother, so I'm the oldest. And I started seeing, him do very, very well. And I'm like, man. And then, his good friends, and we're all friends. We're all good friends from a long time now, but you start seeing them doing well, and you're like, man, this could be something. And then that's when I decided to try to get the license. Absolutely. As far as my networking and the people part of my team that I like to work with, I would say hands down Jessica Albino for my attorney. She's great. I work with her literally if I have the opportunity to hire her or have my seller or my buyer hire her as their attorney, I push her all day long. She's easy to work with, very, communication-wise, open. I love having that direct connect communication with my attorney. I think that's a great asset that I bring to the table when I can come with and say, listen, hey, I work with so-and-so, Jessica Albino, she's great, this and that and the other thing. and it reassures my buyers and my sellers because they see our connection. Like I've had just meet my clients at my barbershop. Like, hey, I need you to sign this, power of attorney, or I need you to sign this, blah, 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 blah. We meet at my barbershop real quick and get it. And it makes people feel relaxed that they can come to my barbershop and know that they're still getting the service that's needed. You don't need to have this fancy office and this and that and the other thing. They just know that no matter what is being done, it's being done right. It's being done well. It's being done efficient. And Jess she's awesome. And as far as lenders go, I have a handful that I use quite often. I try to spread it around as much as I can to make everybody happy, but I have so many that come into my barbershop, and that's the greatest part about having the barbershop is that I have so many different pools of networks that come into my shop of all working professionals that you name it. If it's an electrician, if it's a plumber, if it's a carpenter, if it's this one, that one, or you need advice here or there, I have it. I have access to it. And in the same breath, I utilize Roland George's a lot. Right? I think Roland George's is great from Envoy Mortgage. Let's see. Sebastian, I'm going to murder his last name, but Sebastian Chuck. But I love him. He's great. He comes into the barbershop. He's an awesome guy. Another great asset. Yeah, I mean, the list can go on. If I didn't mention you, I'm sorry. But yeah, the list can go on. So I don't think I would do anything differently. I really don't. I'm really happy with where I am. If I was to get this license again, I think I would do everything the same exact way. I'm in a unique situation. Like I'm a barber, I own a barber shop, I have a very large clientele that I'm not ready to get rid of. I'm not ready to let that go. There was a point in this market where things were really slow for realtors, and I was fortunate. I had that opportunity that I always had income coming in. I had the barbershop. It's kind of my baby at this point, so I per se wouldn't do anything differently. I would still stay with the same team. I love my team. I think we're family. We're all family oriented. We're close friends. We know each other well. We get together often. We have a very, very, very close knit vibe in our office, which to me helps out because it allows you to be you. It allows you to be who you are and not feel ashamed of anything or not get embarrassed about maybe screwing up or messing up, because we all do. We all make mistakes, right? But yeah, to answer that question, I wouldn't do anything different. No, I'm happy where I am. I'm happy the way I'm seeing it snowball. In the next 5 years, I would have to say that I see myself predominantly doing real estate. It's something that has definitely become a passion of mine through and through. I want to really get into buying real estate and owning investment properties and doing flips. I have a great construction background. I was pretty much a journeyman carpenter in the local 107 Carpenters Union, so I do have that experience as well, which also makes me a good agent because I can tell you what I'm looking at, and I can be really sincere with my buyers when we're looking at homes and tell them what I think of the property pre-home inspection. But either which way, in 5 years, I see myself buying investment properties and really starting to develop that component of real estate. I still have the barbershop, I'm still going to be, in there cutting hair and doing what I got to do, but just minimizing, definitely just dropping some hours down and whatnot. Yeah, so I would say my expertise area in Massachusetts is, Central Mass, Worcester, outside of Worcester, surrounding towns of Worcester. I can generally go anywhere, and I would go anywhere, especially working with a client. But yeah, though I would say that's my general area would be Central Mass. I would say somebody should work with me based on, again, my work ethic, my grit, my grind, my reliability, my networking. I come with my own team with no matter what I do. If you're a seller looking to fix some stuff before we list a property, I have access to, great friends at that, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, handymen, floormen, roof guys. I mean, you name it, I have the connections. And on top of those connections, I also have connections with mortgage lenders and people that I work with on a daily basis, and an attorney that I work with on a daily basis. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a repertoire of unlimited inventory of people that can, help a transaction close and help a transaction and help you get successfully to the finish line.
Awesome.
So, somebody, sees this and they want to work with me. My name is Chase Joinville. You can reach me at chase-joinville.remax.com or worcestersalesandrentals.com. Phone number is 508-723-3283. Yeah, at any time. I'm always open. Always open.
You want to cut too?
Yeah, and if you want a haircut, yeah, Grafton Hill Barbershop. I truly care. I care about each and every one of, the people that I'm trying to help each and every day, whether it's giving somebody a good haircut or whether it's providing somebody with the home of their dreams. Either or, I truly care. I want the best for that particular person. And, it's I'll go above and beyond for just about anybody I know and I care about. And that includes clients, customers, whatever you want to call them.